Keanu Reeves has played everything from Duke Caboom to Neo, and his resume is one of the longest in Hollywood. So let's take a thorough look at his films and figure out when they all take place. His acting career is legendary, and his films span from the 16th century to the distant future. Let's start out this massive movie timeline by taking a look back in time to Keanu's earliest chronological film, Much Ado About Nothing. If you're a fan of theater, then you probably know it's based on the comedy of the same name by William Shakespeare. Keanu Reeves plays the role of Don John in this classic story which takes place in the 16th century. We all know Reeves traveled through time in the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure series, and don't worry, we'll get to those films too. But he's been in a surprising number of films that take place long ago, including the notorious critical and commercial failure 47 Ronin. Hey, when you're in as many flicks as Reeves, there are bound to be a few bad ones in the bunch. Although the movie was released in 2013, it tells the story of 47 Ronin, who were active in Japan between 1701 and 1702. Also taking place around this time is his film Dangerous Liaisons, which is set in 1760s France. Now, Bram Stoker's Dracula starts off with a flashback to 1462, but since the bulk of the film takes place a few hundred years later in 1897, we felt confident about placing it here on the timeline. Although this was definitely a memorable movie, it isn't the best example of Reeves' acting skill. In fact, even he admits he wasn't at his best during his time as Jonathan Harker. As you've probably guessed from the title, the movie is about the classic vampire Dracula, who travels to England to find victims and cause as much chaos as possible. For many fans, even more terrifying than the idea of a vampire was Reeves' English accent. Although Reeves insists it wasn't that bad, director Francis Ford Coppola disagreed and said that he just likes Reeves too much to not cast him despite his attempts at an accent. See, it's not just the internet that finds him ridiculously likable.
It's the man himself.
Next stop on our journey through Reeves' movie timeline is the 1940s. The Last Time I Committed Suicide and A Walk in the Clouds were released in 1997 and 1995 respectively, but take place in the 40s. Then there's Tune In Tomorrow, which takes place in the 1950s, but was released in 1990, and the movies Sweet November and Acts of Vengeance, which take place in 1969. Even Cowgirls Get the Blues hit theaters in 1993, but was based on a novel from 1976. 1986's River's Edge was fictional, but based on a real crime that took place in 1981. I Love You to Death was also based on actual events which took place in 1983, 7 years before the film was released. And that brings us to the movie The Brotherhood of Justice, which was released in 1996 and based on events which occurred in 1984. Whew, now that we've all enjoyed some rapid-fire Keanu Reeves movies, let's take a closer look at Youngblood. This sports-based movie came out in 1986 and stars Rob Lowe, Patrick Swayze, and Cynthia Gibb, but even this all-star cast couldn't change the fact that the movie isn't the best. The film tells the story of Dean Youngblood, which, by the way, is an undeniably awesome last name. He's a teenager who dreams of playing for the National Hockey League and whose father thoroughly disapproves. Keanu Reeves portrays Heaver, a hockey goalie who was quite fortuitous since that's a position he's familiar with. In addition to his many other talents, Reeves played hockey in high school, and his goaltending skills earned him the nickname The Wall. Dean ends up joining Heaver's team, the Hamilton Mustangs, and after a few life lessons, he's eventually carried off the ice in victory. This definitely isn't the most critically acclaimed movie Reeves has been in, but it was his first major mainstream hit. In the mid-1980s, Reeves appeared in a handful of other films, which seemed to take place around their time of release, including Flying, Under the Influence, and Babes in Toyland. His film The Replacements came out in 2000, but was loosely based on the 1987 NFL strike. In the 1980s, he had some more films which seemed to take place around the same time, including The Night Before, Permanent Record, The Prince of Pennsylvania, and Parenthood. Providence came out in 1991 and seems to take place about the same time, as well as My Own Private Idaho. This movie helped to show Reeves' transition to more adult roles compared to his previous body of work. The story is loosely based on Shakespeare's Henry IV Part 1, Henry IV Part 2, and Henry V. Reeves played the role of Scott Favor, who travels with his friend Mike Waters, portrayed by River Phoenix. The two of them go from Oregon to Idaho to Rome searching for Mike's mother and finding adventure along the way. My Own Private Idaho has since become a cult classic in addition to a highlight of Reeves' early career. His next big flick was 1991's Point Break, and this time he was co-starring with Patrick Swayze, who he worked with on Youngblood. Reeves played the part of Johnny Utah, a rookie FBI agent who teams up with the charming surfer Bodie to bring down a group of bank robbers who, it turns out, are Bodie's surfing friends. It's kinda like the Fast and the Furious, but a little slower and less angry. Point Break was a massive hit and seemed to solidify Reeves' role in mainstream media. Freaked and Little Buddha were released in 1993 and likely take place during that time period. Then in 1994, we got the movie Speed, which was another major role for Reeves. This is a classic action movie, and Reeves earned the role because director Jan de Bont was impressed by his work in Point Break. To get into character as police officer Jack Traven, Reeves has spent 2 months at the gym bulking up and got a serious haircut. In the movie, his character is forced to deal with the unfortunate task of keeping a bus moving about 50 miles per hour to prevent an explosion. And as you can imagine, that gets a little bit stressful. Speed was a massive success when it crashed into the box office, winning 2 Academy Awards and establishing Reeves as an action hero. In the mid-1990s, Reeves was also in Chain Reaction, Feeling Minnesota, and The Devil's Advocate. In 1997, production started on the movie Constantine, although it wouldn't be released until 2005. Keanu Reeves played the classic comic book character John Constantine, who first appeared in Swamp Thing by Alan Moore in 1985. Constantine is more than a little bit jaded and works to exorcise demons in order to ensure himself a comfortable position in the afterlife. And you thought your job was tough. Although Constantine was a commercial success, reviews at the time were rather mixed, but since time has gone on, and we've seen way worse comic book movies, many of us look back at the film fondly. There have been some rumors that Constantine may join the DCEU if Reeves is willing to reprise his role. The late 90s and early 2000s were definitely a busy time for this star's career. The screenplay for Street Kings was written, although the film wouldn't come out until 2008, and Keanu also appeared in Me and Will, Thumbsucker, and The Gift. He also reluctantly appeared in the movie The Watcher after claiming that a friend had signed his name on the contract. Instead of embarking on a lengthy legal battle, Reeves decided to just play the part of criminal David Alan Griffin, who was being hunted by James Spader's Joel Campbell. Not only was Reeves not a fan of the film, but neither were audiences. But he definitely wasn't short on work around this time, since he also appeared in The Gift, Ellie Parker, Hardball, and Something's Gotta Give. In 2006's The Lake House, he was reunited with Sandra Bullock, who he worked with on Speed. This romantic drama had them leaving each other letters from the years 2004 and 2006. The Day the Earth Stood Still showed us a scene from 1928, but the rest of the movie takes place around 2008 when the movie was released. Then in the late 2000s, we have The Private Lives of Pippa Lee, Henry's Crime, and Generation In 2013, Reeves not only made his directorial debut, but he starred in it too. He played the role of Donica Mark, who enters the world of underground fighting when he needs some fast cash. Although the movie was a big moment in his career, it was unfortunately a total flop at the box office. Making his first flick a multilingual martial arts film might have been too great a challenge for even this amazing actor. But the following year, Keanu took on a film that was a little bit more successful, John Wick. Frankly, we could talk about this movie all day, but the long and short of it is that Reeves plays John Wick, a former assassin trying to get out of the game who just can't help but get pulled back in. This led to 2 additional films in the franchise and a 4th set to come out in May 2021. Now let's take a quick look at this movie that's a blast from the past, A Scanner Darkly. This hit theaters back in 2006, but it takes place in the future of 2013. This animated film is about a constantly monitored dystopia, featuring Keanu as Bob Arctor, an undercover agent infiltrating a seedy underworld. According to Reeves, this is the movie he's the most proud of, even though it wasn't a huge hit at the box office. Alright, now, following the first John Wick, we have the remake of 1977's death game called Knock Knock, as well as Exposed, Keanu, The Whole Truth, The Neon Demon, The Bad Batch, and To the Bone. Following the second John Wick 2, we have A Happening of Monumental Proportions, Siberia, Destination Wedding, Replicas, and then John Wick 3 Chapter 3, Parabellum, followed by Always Be My Maybe in 2019. Then there's his role as Duke Caboom in the animated Toy Story 4, and this character is more autobiographical than you might think. In real life, Reeves is a huge motorcycle fan, and Caboom was edited to be more like this real-life star. His next few films were similarly not too serious. Between Two Ferns the movie and the SpongeBob movie Sponge on the Run. Johnny Mnemonic was released back in 1995, but it takes place in the distant future of 2021. Looking back, we also have his role in the classic Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which technically starts in the year 2688, although Reeves' character is from 1988. Yeah, the timeline's getting a little bit complicated, but who doesn't love seeing Bill and Ted travel through history to complete their report for school? There's also Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which takes place in the future of 2691 and the present of 1993. Reeves is set to star in the third installment of the series, Bill and Ted Face the Music, possibly on the timeline after the future world of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. We have this little series you might have heard of called The Matrix. If you liked Johnny Mnemonic, you'll love seeing Reeves as Neo in this movie that probably needs no introduction, but we're gonna do it anyway. The virtual world Neo lives in is in the year 1999 when the movie was released, but his resistance group believes the real world is 2199, although it's likely closer to the year 2699. Future math is pretty complicated, and the subsequent two films are The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions. There will also be a fourth film also starring Reeves, which should be released in May 2021. Keanu Reeves has an acting resume that's more than extensive. It's exhausting, but hopefully you have a new appreciation for his successful and very long career. What's your favorite movie starring Keanu Reeves? Is there a film featured in this video that you think deserves a remake? Let us know what you think in the comments section, and don't forget to click subscribe for more from ScreenRant. Bye for now.